to an event unlike any other, the WTC 2024. We have had list drop. It is super exciting to get all of these lists in a tremendously helpful PDF format. Thank you to the German organizers for getting that out incredibly efficiently. We expected nothing less, and you did deliver, which is fantastic. So big thanks to the WTC committee for getting us the information in super timely fashion. And we're going to go ahead and do way too much analysis and a run through and thoughts on all of the lists, just as we did last year over the course of the next several episodes, however long it takes. We're going through 32 teams this time. So let's take a look at the big numbers before we get into the smaller numbers. The biggest number on everybody's mind should be 27. That is the number of players that are playing Dusk this particular event. Again, for those counting along at home, we have 32 teams of 5 players, giving us 160 total. So 17% of the field is playing Dusk. That is the highest proportion of any single faction. And the next two closest faction only have 17 players apiece. And those are Orgoth and Khador, each with about 11% of the field. Then it's Brinebloods with 15 players and about 9% of the field there. And then you've got Shadowflame Shard with 13 players. Again, about an 8% share of the field. And then to round out sort of our top slots, we have Infernals and Signar Storm Legion, each with 9 players apiece, each of them taking about a 6% share of players apiece. Right underneath them is Dark Host with 8, Grimkin with 7, Scorn Exalted with 6, which is tied with the number of Dark Operations. Then we get into more of the unicorn factors, where we've got 3 Crucible Guard, 2 Devourer's Host, 2 United Creels, 2 Temple Guardians, 2 Storm of the Norths, 2 Relic Guard, 2 Black Fleets, 2 Armored Cores, 2 Ravens of War, 2 Shadows of Retribution in what is one of the greatest turnarounds as compared to last year's numbers in terms of player base. The Retribution players have gone from the dominant seat to the non-dominant seat in numbers to be replaced by their undead betters. We've got First Army with a single player, Convergence of Cirrus with a single player, Soldiers of Fortune with a single player, Blindwater Congregation with a single player, and a single solitary Secret Dominion player. I think it is fair to say, with a total representation of 3 players, that it is indeed time to cancel Circle Christmas. So those are sort of the big picture in which we find ourselves. Let's talk about Dusk. Let's talk about the fact that there are 74 units of Guardians, Soulless Guardians, in the available Dusk. Let's talk about the fact they have 3 balloons across 3 different teams in Dusk. They've got the Bombers. It's a very interesting field this year. I think we can definitely say we have made the transition to the newer armies as a collective meta. And I think that the shakeout and the voice of this year's WTC is that Dusk has the most leverageable combinations currently within the game. They're in a very strong spot meta-wise. They probably leverage the pig or the big pig better than any other faction. in the game, and you see that in a representation that is greater than the majority of the field. So I think it does speak volumes to the versatility of Dusk. I also think it's very interesting that you're going to see several teams here that have opted to go double Dusk. So the first team that we're going to discuss tonight is Germany Fuchs with a composition of Kador, Morgoth, Dark Host, Infernals, and Dusk. So let's jump into the list here and get it started. Again, very excited to go through all of these lists with you all. And remember to like and subscribe. And looking forward to providing a bunch of content over the course of WTC as I observe from the loveliness of my own home. We shall go forth and examine the list. First off, we have Wintercore. Wintercore pairing is Baronova and Valari Savran. So again, very standard Wintercore pairing. Very interesting to be pairing the old school, quote unquote, old school casters of Baronova and Savran. I think they pair exceedingly well together in the new environment with Mastodons. Little bit of a broken mold here with Zeus in that the Savran list does not have a Mastodon. So we'll run through it quickly here. Baronova has a Dire Wolf with Shield Guard Head, Ice Hammer Plow Shield, Mastodon Fire Support with 2 of the heavy mount cannons. On the shoulders, a Great Axe and a Grinder Fist. The AC2 Bison has a Carver Ultimus with Warbore MMD 47, a Kruger, a Magazev Zukova, a 2 Wintercore officers, a unit of Arcanist, 2 units of Wintercore snipers with doggos, Blessings of God, Hit and Run, Infiltration, Old Faithful, and Power Swell as the cards in the Baronova list. Again, I think this is the standard evolution for Baronova currently. Very good Mastodon build. Huge fan of the double cannon and the grinder. I think you get a ton of value in that configuration. The fire support head obviously making you shoot better. Always good. The Bison is such a nice piece with Baronova. Just gives you a lot of interesting angles. A little bit of tech here and there. Very, very good. Again, we're going to talk a lot about Carver over the course of this. And we're also going to talk a lot about Kruger over the course of this because Kruger was taken in every single list that was eligible to take him. He's the only model. He's not the only model, but he's the only of the mercenary models that was taken in all eligible instances. So I think that speaks volumes to how efficient that model is built. That we're seeing that at every list in the WTC that could take him is taking him. So we'll have some more comments on that as we roll through. Again, Carver just probably the best weapons platform in the game, point for point, on top of in terms of the Warbore, and Carver himself being no slouch, giving you some little tech pieces like Torment, Quicksand. It is quite, or sorry, Quagmire. It is quite an interesting conundrum that he poses, which is he just provides tremendous value. You're working in an average between 2 and 6 shots. 2 on the low end, 6 on the high end. So most of the time you're between 4 and 5. 4 and 5 shots on him, and it just works. He provides angles. He gives you an option to kill a caster. Sometimes it doesn't exist. He's no knockdown thanks to Batten. Just a lot of good stuff with Carver, and again the combination of him and the feet. You've got the Mastodon in there, so you are really banking on the shooting potential here. Kruger also providing tremendous shooting value. Again, lot of good stuff here. in the Baranova list. Jumping over to the Savern list, again, we have a Direwolf, Shield Guard Head, Ice Hammer, and a heavy chain gun this time. We've got a Tyson, we have Kruger, we got Volkova, we have Sergeant Krull, 3 Winter Corps officers, 2 units of Winter Corps suppressors, 2 units of shock trooper gunners, 2 units of Winter Corps infantry, each with double autocannon, and 2 units of Winter Corps snipers, each with Winter Corps hunting dogs. Defenses are included in this list of 3 fire pits. Blessing of the Gods defenses, hit and run, put the fires out, and sentry duty. So again, giving outs for the army against stealth with the fire pits. Interesting choice selection. I love the inclusion of the shock trooper gunners. They pair incredibly well with the ranges that Volary supports. Work very well under his feet. The one bit that's a little bit odd to me is not having the Mastodon in the Volary list, and I'm wondering if it's more a function of not wanting to have double Colossal in the pairing, or not wanting to have a pairing with a Colossal in each list, to try to provide a little more flexibility and to cover some better matchups, avoid getting dropped into situations where the Mastodon would not be good. And having it in both lists is a liability. That I think is the thought process here. But the Mastodon is darn good, and he's very, very good in Volary. Not that the Baranova one is any slouch. It's just all of the things that Savern does to turn on a Mastodon. It's a little surprising to not see one here, but I can understand the sentiment. All right, moving over to Orgoth. Here we have a pairing of Harusk and Sabrith. Again, fairly traditional pairing. Let's take a look at the list. We've got a 4 Jackal Harusk list. On the Harusk side, we have an Arc Node, a Flamethrower, a Clawed Fist, a Jackal with Bloodthirst Head, Mace, and Clawed Fist. A second Jackal, or 3 of the Jackals are Bloodthirst, Mace, and Clawed Fist. I am a big fan of these little 5-point Jackals. They just do a ton of work and threat a little bit further than not. You can play around with them and redline to get them into interesting positions. They're just annoying little solos that are difficult to take out. Again, for those that aren't aware, the Jackal stat line is 1217 base. That is what these are. They're naturally aggressive, so they can run or charge for free. The beauty of the Bloodthirst Head is that it gives you 2-inch additional charge against living and undead models. So it gives you some greater threat vector to where you're charging 11 and threading 12. So you've got a charge threat of 12 on these little Jackals. They're just annoying. You've got to take them out. Lets you contest turn after turn. Again, they're 5 points. They can just do a lot of little things, and they require sometimes far more than you want to give up to take them out. Big fan of this style of battle group. Again, you're only investing 15 plus 7. You're only investing 22 points in having 4 battle groups. The Flamethrower is an interesting bit of tech. I am interested to see how they are utilizing that. I imagine it's for some spot removal in tight areas. Having a Flamethrower is an interesting choice here on the Arc Node. Although I do like having a ranged piece with the Arc Node itself. Again, the rest of this list, you've got a Groton Champion, you've got double Groton Keepers, you got Alexis, 2 Reaver Commanders, Therian Vanner, double Rock Harrier, double Ochre Axers, a unit of Ochre Barragers, War Witch Coven, and then the command cards are Careful Reconnaissance, Grave Robbing, Hit and Run, Put the Fires Out, and True Inspiration. Really like this Hurusk list. Again, you have the full cadre solo boat. I say full. The only thing you're missing is a second Groton champion, and really one is generally enough. The two Reaver commanders just do a ton of work in this list, be it giving out rerolls, be it giving out set defense to the various modules in this list, or just going and providing tactician to the army itself, so it's not falling all over it. Therian Vanner has gotten so much better within the meta and within the list construction that is currently out there. Having magical weapons on a stick is quite good to have within the army. Grim Returns has increased slightly in value because of the nature of the armies that we're playing now, with the larger amounts of infantry and having an ability to bring back some of this high value infantry is quite good with her. The fact that she is a natively Pathfinder and stealth, fact that she has base double 2 attacks and 2 magical weapons, battle wizard with access to hex blast on a stick. She just provides a lot of value throughout the course of a game, and it's a really strong 4-point solo as part of the pair. Rock Harriers, again, providing some additional threat, really do a lot for the army as a whole. Work great under Hurusk's feet because they have that crit pitch on one of their attacks. They've got gang, just a good solid unit that does a lot of work, takes True Inspiration very well, a lot of high value with Vanek if she's able to Grim Returns one of them. The Axers, again, workhorses within the faction for sure. Again, just bringing all the little tidbits of tech that Axers do, be it snacking, or 2-inch reach, melee 7, magical weapon, combo strike, to go ahead and go from POW 13 to POW 17. Unyielding, they take buffs really well offensively or defensively. Base armor 16, so under unyielding they go to 18. IR they go to 20. Under feet they're 23s. Just a lot you can do with the Axer's base there. The Ulkers are some of my favorite is one of my favorite units right now. The Ulker Barragers. One of the things that this unit does is just very good at spot removal for solos, very good for additional blast damage into some of these problematic high defense units that are out there. Because again, just getting them on the blast damage. The other bit that is amazing with them is the fact that they have gone to speed 6 and are now repo 3. This little bit of a tweak in terms of additional speed that they got in the January update and repo 3 just means that they can move and attack and spread out and be generally annoying and always relevant in the 2024 scenario pack, where you've got these objectives that you might want to have to hang back for or need a piece to contest. Having the additional option to repo them just means that they get to places so rapidly and then project so strongly with their 12-inch gun that it just gives you a lot of options as the Orgoth player from the scenario side of the game, even before they fire a shot. And then as they fire shots, they provide incremental value throughout the course of a game. Again, being 14.8 AoE 2. It's a pretty good gun. Only issue is Rat 6 on them, but that's fine for all of the additional value they have in the scenario game. Again, Warwinch Coven help keep the Jackals topped up, give you access to Dark Shroud, and then they get veteran leadership if they're within 10 inches of Therian Vanek. She's got veteran leadership on them, so again, giving them +1 to their attack stat is pretty good, including on their spell casting for Flesh Eater. Then jumping over to the Sabbath list, With Sabrith, we've got a Jackal with an Arc Node, Mace, and Clawed Fist. We've got a Tyrant with a Relentless Charge, Scything Flail, and Claw. We have a Ravener, double Sky Bomber, double Reaver Commander, again Therian Vanek, a Volker Forge Master, 2 units of Reaver Skirmishers, a unit of Strike Reavers with Reaver Standard, and a unit of Warwitch Coven. Command cards are Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Old Faithful, and Savagery. Very interesting double bomber build. This is very similar to what I've been running. I don't have the Strike Reavers in that slot for those 9 points. I think in mine they become basically a Keeper, and Halexis is what I've run there. But again, very similar, very good core. Lets you take advantage of all of Sabrith's tricks with the Perdition, with the Crippling Grasp. The double Sky Bomber just gives you such assassination potential and just good board control in many cases that it just works so well with her. And then again, you've got the Ravener and the Tyrant to keep the opponent honest. Therian Vanek, again, just having another extra Hex Blast in the list or just base access to Hex Blast helps a ton here. The double Skirmishers are a very interesting bit of kit. They've got Blessed Weapons, which can be surprisingly relevant into something like the Pig. They have less relevant against the Pig, but relevant with Sabrith is Sabrith has access to Fog of War, and this unit has Prowl, so it gives the potential for stealth. The Strike Reavers with the standard are an interesting addition to this list. I think the ability to have the CRA piece here is very interesting. Gives you some play into some problematic models. You've got the shield wall that you're able to take advantage of. The difficulty that I have with the Strike Reavers right now is that for 9 points, I think the Barragers do what they want to do better, a little safer, and with the Repo, you have a little more value generally. That said, the Strike Reavers are a fine inclusion. The 12-inch gun is always relevant. CRA can be very good in the situations where it is very good. You've got Arcane Forces to act as your second Arc Node, provided the first Arc Node goes out, so it gives you a little bit of security into some matches. You've got Savagery for when you absolutely have to make the damage stick. Again, some fun bits of kit here. I don't love the Old Faithful card pick. I could see what they're going for, but again, generally, the value prop of Old Faithful is far less than getting an additional focus or doing or getting a put the fires out into this list, because it helps avoid your bomber being useless due to some type of ailment effect that was placed on it. So my real point of contention is the command card. Mostly because I'm not very high on Old Faithful generally. The games where Old Faithful is great, it's great. But those games are so few and far between now with the escalation and damage that I just think you're better off having something that would be more of a get out of jail free card than making sure the Tyrant's operational. But that's me. All right, and coming into the home stretch on Fuchs, we have Dark Host. Dark Host pairing is Scavarius and Denegra, the Soul Weaver. Pretty interesting Denegra list. You've got a Death Ripper, you have an Inflictor, you've got a Sepulcher with a Wraith engine, Derek Wraith, a Machine Wraith, double Necrotech, single Soul Trapper. unit of Bane Knights with Bane Knight Officer, 2 units of Bane Riders, and the Wither Shadow Combine. Defenses are 3 barriers. We've got our command cards of Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, defenses, Grave Robbing, and Sentry Duty. Again, pretty interesting and pretty standard for Denegro to be running a Sepulcher. You've got a single Wraith engine in this particular Denegro build. A little light on the infantry, but the infantry that it is taking is very mobile. With the Bane Rider and then the Bane Knights. And then this is paired up with a Scaverius with double Death Ripper, 2 Wraith engines, Derek Wraith, Magnus, the Unstoppable with Invictus. You've got a Necrotech, you've got Old Grim, you've got 2 units of Bane Knights with Bane Knight Officers. You have a unit of Bane Knight Riders in the Widow Shadow Combine. You've got unit of command cards of Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, Grave Robbing, Savagery, and Sentry Duty. Again here, very cool Scaverius list. You're utilizing Magnus and Invictus because Scaverius has access to telekinesis. You get that additional threat range on Magnus and Invictus. Just allows you to do a lot of little things from a threat standpoint. You've got 2 units of Banes with the officers, which I like quite a bit. You've got single unit of Bane Riders. You got the Widow Shadow Combine again. You've got 2 of the Wraith engines. Kind of put your point home. I like this a lot. The Magnus does a lot of work for Scaverius. Gives you another node, gives you some shooting. Just does a lot of positive things in the pairing for Crix. Pretty exciting build out here. Then we have Infernals. We have an Omadamos and Zadaroth pairing. The Omadamos list has a Guardian of Souls, Double Tormentor, Princess Regina Gravnoy, a Forebodar, Lord Roget Varus, a Lidna the Forgotten, Double Wretch, a Valenholic, the Fallen Knight, single Cultist Band, Master Preceptor Orin Midwinter, another Cultist Band, double Howler. With Blessing of the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Grave Robbing, Hit and Run, and Power Swell. Again, you've got Obadamos and Guardian of Souls. Double Tormentor is the base of the list. You've got Valenholic in there. You've got a lot of really nice solo tech pieces. You do have Regina Gravnoy with the Forebodar. Give you just that little bit of extra edge within several of the matchups. But again, pretty standard ish Omadamos lists. And then on the Zadaroth side, we've got Double Tormentor, again, Princess Gravnoy with a Lamenter. You've got a Hermit of Henchhold, a Lord Reget Devorus, Lidna the Forgotten, Single Wretch, Valenhawk the Fallen Knight, a Cultist Band with Preceptor Orin Midwinter, 4 Griever Swarms, which is quite an interesting call. You've got Double Howler, Unit of Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, Grave Robbing, Hit and Run, and Power Swell. The Griever Swarms in mass are a very interesting concept within the list itself. They provide a little bit of shooting threat to the overall faction. Really is kind of a uniqueness. I haven't seen that many Griever Swarms being run in a long time. For those that don't know, Griever Swarms are range 7. If they have a 10-inch gun, or speed 7, they have a 10-inch gun that is magical, crit fire, and pistol with POW 12. So again, a little bit of a fun hand cannon that is magical and crit fire with a fairly decent rat. They are eyeless sight and they have access to combined arms or CRA. to CRA, and they are flying. They are just flying little shot monsters, and having 20 on the table is an interesting prospect to see how much work they can actually do in support of the overall Zadaroff list. I think it's a very, very interesting list overall. Uh, Definitely a fresh take on Zadaroff, and I think it gives you a volume of shots that can be very relevant into specific light targets. And then rounding it off is the Dusk list for Germany Fuchs. We've got Serafeld with Israfeld, a Spectre, Dices, Kruger, Mage Hunter Commander, a Valesse, Hand of Morning, double Void Engine, double Dreadguard Cavalry, single Seeker, double Soulless Guardians, Arcane Forces, Careful Reconnaissance, Duck and Cover, Power Swell, and Put the Fires Out. Singing a bunch of classics here in the Serafeld list and then fine-tuning it a little bit with some of the high-value solos and two of the high-value solos and the Spectre from the Cadre box. Serafeld list doesn't do a ton of things fancy, but what it does, it does very, very right. You've got the Spectre being just a really strong general scenario piece that is difficult to take down. You've got Israfel, who's going to threat absolutely insane amount under Serafel with the arcane propulsion spell, with the access to telekinesis. You've got access to Force Hammer with Serafel, which works a ton of wonders. You've got double Void Engine to go ahead and maximize the right production with the Soulless Guardians. You have the Soulless Guardians having some very interesting synergies with the Mage Hunter Commander. You've got Dices again in there for an additional cast of Telekinesis to get things where they need to go. Double Dreadguard Cav, because the faction is built on how well the Cavs work, or the Cav works in many instances. Then this is paired up with Moraine. You've got Israfel again. You've got a Sky Bomber. Love this bit of tech here. I'm a huge fan of the Sky Bomber in general, particularly in Dusk. I think it's one of the stronger configurations that is not the Orgoth balloon. I've talked about this before. We'll talk about it again. The fact that the Dusk rules bump up the defense to 14 and then give you access to Poltergeist on what is a very good fire-based platform for long-range damage dealing, and anything close, you get access to again, within 4, you get access to a lot. You get access to Crater, and then the POW 15 last gun. Just a lot of value to be had with the balloon. Helps shape some matchups that may be more difficult for Dust traditionally. Anywhere where you were having some difficulty picking out solos, the Bomber provides quite a bit of help in making those matches a little bit harder for the opponent. Big fan of the inclusion here. I liked seeing this, particularly from the German team. Excited for it again. There were 34 bombers brought within the WTC lists. Only 5 of those bombers are not Orgoths. So it's very interesting to see, three bombers here between the Orgoth player running 2 and the Dust player running 1. But good to see somebody not Orgoth, understanding that the bomber has quite a bit to offer from an offensive and defensive standpoint. Lets you do some things from a scenario gameplay standpoint. Pretty exciting. Looking at all of these lists here for German Fuchs. Wish them a ton of luck. I like the team composition quite a bit. It's a rough pairing process when you have Dusk, Orgoth, and infernals within the pairing itself. Then you have two very competent. You get a very competent pairing with Winter Core, and then you're rounding it out with a Crix pairing that is able to kind of feed on some very favorable matchups, particularly with the fact you've got Orgoth and Dusk to kind of help keep out some of the natural predators from hitting that list. At least that's the theory with it. I like the composition here of German Fuchs tremendously. So looking forward to seeing how well they do in the coming competition. Moving over to German Rackelhand, we have a composition of Dark Host, Rick's Dark Host, Brine Blood Marauders, Signar Storm Legion, Dark Operations, and of course Dusk. All right, and kicking off with Crix, we have Denegra, the Soul Weaver, a Death Ripper, two Wraith Engines, Carver Ultimus, and Warboar, MMD 47, Derek Wraith, Necrotech, Old Grim, 3 units of Bane Warriors, each with Officer in Standard, and the Wither Shadow Combine. Man cards are Arcane Forces, Blessing the Gods, Grave Robbing, Hit and Run, and Put the Fires Out. Pretty interesting Denegra list here. A lot of Bane Warriors to provide the beef and be exceedingly hard hitting. With stealth, you have double Wraith Engine for all of the Wraith Engine shenanigans and the additional armor to Denegra. You've got Carver just taking advantage of having mortality all the time with Denegra on the target. So again, really solid match here. Like this list quite a bit. And then pairing it with Scabrous, a Death Ripper, a single Wraith Engine, Derek Wraith, double Wraith or Machine Wraiths, Magnus and Invictus, Old Grim, 2 units of Bane Riders, 2 units of Bane Warriors, each with Officer in Standard, and then the Wither Shadow Combine, Arcane Forces, Grave Robbing, Old Faithful, Power Swell, and Savagery. Again, you can't beat the combination of Magnus, Magvictus, and Telekinesis. It's a trick that we're going to see elsewhere when Telekinesis is present, particularly in Dusk with Seraphil. So this is our first list where we see both a Magnus and a Carver in the pairing. So this contributes to the overall limited number, relatively, of pigs in the field. The Carver count, as I'm calling it, is 119 out of 360 lists. So about a third of the list are running Carver. About 20 lists are running Magnus. For context, this being one of them, the Bane Riders are a great selection here, particularly with the buff that they got in January. So good to see some of these buffs actually seeing some play at highest level of competition. Moving on to the Brine Blood Marauders, we have Bragan Ragemonger sporting 2 Dire Trolls, Deepborn Dire Trolls, each of them, or the first one with a Bellower, a Lunker, Finn, a Hammerhead, and a Shark Skull Gauntlet. Second one with the Cantankerous Head, Spearback, the Hammerhead Arm, and the Shark Skull Gauntlet. We see a Vroger, a Booty Boss, Double Fire Guardian, First Mate, Stormjaw. We have Madame Moriarty, 2 Pig Dirges, 4 units of Marauder Crew, each with a Quartermaster, and Spirit Shamans. Interesting list here. This is sort of the quintessential Ragemonger build, at least currently. You go in, you have get yourself in a situation where you can maximize Ragemonger's feet. The units shoot with each of the Quartermasters going double mini feet, and you try to take as much off the board as possible with that volley, particularly the Quartermaster sprays, and you then play the game from there, where you've got to then chew through all of those Marauders, and then chew through the 2 Direborns that are trailing behind. So it's a very interesting list. I think we're going to see it be pretty archetypical for this WTC in terms of the Brine Blood contributions. Command card wise, you got Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Power Swell, and Sentry Duty. The one notable point is that Ragemonger is a three spell caster, so he gets to take a lot of work from the rack for the different situations, and you get to see a lot of player expression in that rack selection with him. He's pairing it up with Admiral Boomhowler, absolutely to me the best caster in Trolls or in Brian Bloods. Having access to her defensive feat is really, really strong, uh, especially in the matchups that you want to be getting her into. Uh, you can really cause some issues for the opponents longer term. In this list, we have a single Deepborn Dire Troll with Cantankerous, Lunker, Hammerhead, and Shark Skull Gauntlet. We've got a Vrager, two Booty Bosses, one Fire Guardian, three Fugue Walkers, Madame Moriarty, a Pig Battle Brig, 3 units of Marauder Crew with a Bosun, a fourth Marauder Crew with a Tapper, uh, 2 units of Spirit Shamans, Blessing the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Hit and Run, Power Swell, and Put the Fires Out. Big fan here of what we've got from tech choices. The Fugue Walkers are interesting, particularly in mass. It's the first time I've sort of seen that configuration, which is pretty. Fugue Walker is a very interesting little solo. Comes with Automatic Pathfinder, comes with Advanced Deployment, is a Def 13, Arm 17. Upon activation, you choose one of 3 effects, either +2 armor to go to Arm 19, and also gives corrosion back to the opponent if the model was destroyed by the attack, gives them Berserk and Last Word. So you gain Berserk to start clearing out infantry units, and then if you are struck down by your opponent, you don't die. You just immediately advance up to 3, and then make 1 basic melee attack. So you get 1 chance to go off beforehand, and then you also have access to Eyeless Sight and Stumbling Drunk. Stumbling Drunk can't be knocked down unless you're advancing, and then after the attack is resolved, the model with Stumbling Drunk is pushed D3 away from the attacking model. He's got 2 Mat 7 POW 14s with Crit Fire. Pretty interesting little solo. I see a lot of little tech that you can do with the Fugue Walker. It's just an annoyance piece in the list. Again, under feet, they're going to go to 15, which is pretty spicy. There's some fun to be had there. I like having these little units, or these little solos that can go and just be awkward contesting pieces, awkward to remove points for the opponent, or to be able to come back through and counterattack with. So pretty interesting pairing here. Like this a lot from the Brine Blood player for Rackelhand. Moving on to our first Storm Legion list, we see a pretty well expected pairing of Sparkhammer and Anson Wolf. Nice to see Wolf back at the WTC. He was sort of a mainstay in the first go round for Mark IV last year, and is continuing on that mainstay in the Brave New World. So let's get into the grit on these lists. For Sparkhammer, we have the General, we have Carver and the Warboar, we have Eilish Garrity, Iris, Shadow of the Retribution, and Kruger, Wrath of Lightergast. We've got 2 Legionnaire officers. We have Specialist Tyson Voss. We have a Zephyr, 4 units of Stormcallers, a single unit of Stormlance Legionnaires, a single unit of Storm Veins, Blessing the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Hit and Run, Infiltration, Power Swell. Pretty strong Sparkhammer list here. The Pig seems a pretty obvious inclusion with the reliance on Stormcallers, having that beefier bit to aid in spot removal of heavier threats is very good. Again, Kruger is taken in every single list that can take him. You've got Eilish for reroll shenanigans, and you have Iris for just a good additional threat within this list. 4 units of Stormcallers. Guess what it is? They're a really good unit that Signar should be taking a lot of, and they are. Jumping over to Anson Wolf's list, we see a little bit more compact battle group than I've seen on some of these builds, and I'm here for it. You have 2 Corsairs. Each Corsair has a shield guard head, heavy storm thrower, and the voltaic punching spike. You've got single striker with relentless charge, electro bombard, and heavy mag bolter. You've got Kruger. You've got double officer. You've got arcane mechanics, double stormcaller, unit of storm veins, 3 units of Stormblade Legionnaires, and 3 units of Storm Guard Legionnaires. You've got defenses here with Spike Trap, Barrier. Cards are defenses, Duck and Cover, Hit and Run, Power Swell, and Put the Fires Out. Really interesting wolf list here. Again, you have a ton of infantry to spark the feet and to just generally be annoying for the opponent to chew through. You have single striker and Corsairs to take advantage of said feat. But I think in this particular build, I think you're looking to get a little more work from Anson Wolf, getting him into position and starting to tear through alternative infantry hordes and get that blood quench count up relatively high. So be interesting to see how this pairing works out and to see how common said pairing is throughout the Signar matchups as we roll through the list. Again, jumping over to next army in German Rackelhand, we have Dark Operations, we have Exelon Thexus, and Lich Lord Asphyxius. Very exciting to see a Lich Lord list in Dark Ops and at the WTC. So this is very, very exciting stuff. On the Exelon Thexus front, we have a Wrecker, 2 Cephalix Agitators, a Dr. Stygus, Magnus, and Invictus. We have a unit of Cephalix Dominators with Wardenhold Forge Guard, 2 units of Cephalix Dominators and Steelhead Mortar Crews, 3 units of Cephalix Mindbenders and Drudges, and 3 units of Mind Slaves and Drudges with a unit of Cephalix Overlords. We've got Blessing the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Defenses, Power Swell, and Sapper, and 3 Spike Traps there. Again, the point is to utilize Exelon Thexus's feet to try and get as much into those spike traps as possible on those positioning. You've got a lot of tricks with Magnus within this list, as Exelon does all the great things that he did previously. The one notable difference is the volume of infantry has increased significantly from last year, and the number of wreckers being taken has reduced significantly. Again, part of a function of the change to list requirement. Then jumping over to Lich Lord Asphyxius, we have a wrecker. We have Carver Ultimus and the War Boar, MMD 47, 3 units of Cephalix Agitators, a Dr. Stygus, a Machine Wraith, 2 units of Dominators and Holden World Artillery Corps, 2 units of Dominators with Steelhead Volley Guns, 1 unit of Mindbenders and Drudges, 3 units of Mind Slavers and Drudges, and 2 units of Cephalix Overlords, Blessing the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Hit and Run, Power Swell, and Savagery. Just interesting to see Asphyxius there with Big Pig. Fan of what is going on in this pairing. Real big fan of Dark Operations as a list selection point, and glad to see it maintaining its popularity at WTC, although falling off fairly significantly from last year with only 6 players utilizing it, although I do think it is a weapon within the pairing process quite a bit. And so excited to see it for Germany Rackelhand. And then rounding out Rackelhand, we have Dusk. We have the ever-popular pairing of Moraine and Seraphil. In the Moraine list, we have a Ghast with Arknode, Heavy Blade Fist, Battle Shield. We have Israfel. We have Carver Ultimus with the War Boar MMD 47. We've got Dices. We've got Kruger. We've got a single Mage Hunter Commander, double Mage Hunter Sniper teams. We've got Valus, Hand of Mourning, You've got 2 Void Engines, a unit of Seeker Adepts, and 2 units of Soulless Guardians. Our Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Duck and Cover, and True Inspiration. Pretty interesting Moraine list here. Really just have the solos from a Funeral Rites perspective. You've got Carver to take advantage of the mortality that she's able to dish out. You've got double Void Engines to play the Void Engine game with 2 units of Soulless Guardians, as well as Beast Shooting platforms. The amount of spell casting potential within the list is very, very high. And as such, those Void Engines are going to be very, very full most of this game. So you can use them as shooting platforms and then refill them over the course of your turn so that during the opponent's turn, they can go ahead and provide you with the right value for the Soulless Guardians who are going to be shield guarding you against the counterattacks that are coming. Then you've got a Seraphel list. You've got Israfel here with Dreadguard Sire, Dices the Eye of Darkness, a Kruger. You've got a single Mage Hunter Commander. You've got a Valius again, double Void Engine, double Dreadguard Cavalry, single unit of Mage Hunter Assassins. Again, Seeker Adepts and 2 units of Soulless Guardians, Arcane Forces, Careful Recon, Duck and Cover, Power Swell, and True Inspiration. Again, pretty standard Seraphel build here. I do like the little bit of spice with the Mage Hunter Assassin unit in the list. I think it provides just a little bit extra punch and closing power on top of the extreme threat range you can pose with these Dreadguard Cavalry. Again, Guardians are just value city. Very interesting list here by German Rackelhand. I like the team composition overall quite a bit. You've got some very hard matchup points with Dark Host and Dark Operation. You've got a very competent Dusk build. You've got a pretty competent pair in the Brine Bloods match, and then you have Signar, which can prove to be problematic for certain armies. So again, I think they've got a good chance on home soil to make some noise along with their countrymen in Fuchs. And then rounding out the German delegation, we have Eichrenchin. Their composition is Morgoth, Shadowflame Shard, Brineblood Marauders, Dusk, and Wintercore. All right, starting off for Germany Ike. We've got Morgoth. We have a power combination of Sabrith and Hurusk. The Sabrith list is single Jackal with Arknode, Mace, and Claw. Double Tyrants, each with Relentless Charge, Scything Flail, and Claw. Double Sky Bombers, Eilish Garrity, single Reaver Commander, Therian Vanek, 2 Forge Masters, 2 units of Reaver Skirmishers, one of those units of Reaver Skirmishers having a Reaver Standard, 2 units of Warwitch Coven. Command cards of Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, Hit and Run, Put the Fires Out, and Savagery. Really like this composition on Sabrith. This is a list I've played. The only bit I'm a little hesitant on is the standard on the second unit of Reaver Skirmishers. I understand the logic of having the standards in play. I think if you're going to do that, you change those 2 Reavers. Again, that's just you change those to Assault Reavers. I like the Skirmishers a lot. They do a lot for the list as a whole. The double Skirmishers, again, I've been playing mostly, but I've been playing them naked. So having the Reaver Standard there is an interesting concession to wanting the additional armor swing for them, boosting up that grouping. I play them fairly aggressively in my lists, so having them on a unit that is intended to be stealth at particular times within the list, just the only part of the list that I have concern for, just from a personal flavor standpoint, where I would just make that 1 unit Assault Reavers if I really wanted to get the standard in there. Double Vorkur Forge Master is great with Sabrith. Lets you be very flexible with the tyrants that you have in this list. Lets you get opportunity for hyper aggressive to move around the battlefield and increase threat range. you've got Double Bomber. I'm a huge advocate for Double Bomber, particularly with Sabrith. It just solves so many problems within the overall meta. Double War Witches, again, to keep everything fueled, as well as have access to Dark Shroud when you absolutely need it. Very, very good, very, very strong. Therian Vanek, again, you're seeing her more and more, and I think you're going to continue to see her more and more. Really good solo, really good solo. The one notable thing here is all of these are without any of the new stuff. Meaning none of the cadre is present in this list, which is refreshing a little bit. I think there is something to be said for the early release pieces, or the release pieces before the cadre, and Orgoth still being able to stand and make a pretty compelling list, of which this definitely is. Interesting list. We'll jump over to Harusk here. Harusk, we again see what is becoming my favorite bit in Harusk in German list, which are 3 Bloodthirster Jackals with mace and claw. Again, just the 5-point gnarly little jackal, just all on his own, doing his thing, living his life, being annoying as hell, taking advantage of Bloodthirst to the max, being a scenario hindrance, being a very little mobile platform that, again, is going to trade up at different points in its illustrious career, just because that is what jackals do, or it's going to last in a spot it shouldn't last. Just a good little piece. Again, we've got a 4th jackal with an arc node, mace, and clawed fist. We've got Eilish Garrity again, a single Groton champion, double Groton keeper, Alexis. And this is a package I've run a ton recently. I love this package. Goes in pretty much almost all of my lists to start. So no arguments here. Again, 3 Reaver Commanders. Love Reaver Commanders. They are outstanding. They just do everything for the Orgoth army in making it just overall better. Therian Vanek again. We've got 2 units of Rock Harriers and 2 units of Ulker Axers. Again, I've played 2 Rock Harriers for a very long time. Very good units. They do a ton for the overall threat of the list. Threat range, they cover scenario incredibly well. 2 units of Ulker Axers, again, backbones of the faction. And then 2 War Witch Covens, keep all those little jackal missiles revved up and ready to go. Careful reconnaissance, grave robbing, hit and run, Old Faithful, and put the fires out. The Old Faithful inclusion is a little surprising here. But again, the intention is to make these jacks as annoying as possible, and being able to force them to keep having to attack a 5-point jackal is a good prospect. Is interesting. I'm very interested to see how the Harusk list works out for the player. For the kid. Very good pairing. Like these lists a lot. Very excited to see how Orgoth does for Team Ike, or German Ike. Jumping over to Chimera. Chimera is another faction that I play and love them very, very much. We have a Shyrus and Rask pairing. Very, very cool. Again, two of the OGs in the Shadow Flame Shard faction. This is one of the more interesting lists in Shadow Flame Shard to me with Shyrus. You've got a Apex with the Asp head, a Hunter's Mark tail and cleavers, double Wyvern. You've got Belagul. You've got an Incarnate Conjurer. You've got the Chaos, the Winter's Chill. 2 units of Quickfang Stalkers, each with a Quickfang Master, and then 2 more units of Quickfang Stalkers without the Masters. A worm and a single unit of Wormspine Shadowmancers, Blessing the Gods, Duck and Cover, Hit and Run, Power Swell, and Sapper. Again, the battle group is very similar to what I run. The solo package, let's spend some time here for a minute. Belagul is an auto-include, because Belagul is an enrage bot that does some other things. But most of the time, he's going to be enraging. And Enrage is really good in an army that is dependent on its pieces for damage. At least it's War Beast for damage. The Incarnate Conjurer. I would love to understand this selection. as the solo. And the reason I say that is simply because it tends to have, at least for me when I'm looking at it from a list building perspective, it just doesn't do a lot of things turn over turn. Now, what it does do is it does give you access to a couple of things. One, it gives you a speed 7 solo. The speed 7 solo is going to light things on fire over the course of the game. That can be interesting. The more interesting point with it is that it has, with that, the Whip the Flames. So within 8 of the model, models are going to suffer -2 to their attack rolls. It can also give a friendly faction model that all of its melee and ranged attacks are going to gain continuous fire for 1 turn. That is interesting. I don't know how good it is, turn over turn. The part that I suspect that this is in here for is more the purifying prayer. And it's more because this is going to probably play up with the infantry horde and try to remove as many continuous effects as possible, which is that animi and continuous effects on models units within 6 of this model immediately expire. So using it defensively to try and remove some of these problematic bits. Also, it does have an Ashes to Ashes spell that it can use. It is at 7, which is not nothing. Again, that's a range 8 POW 10, and your target is directly hit. The nearest D3 models near it within 4 are going to suffer a POW 10 fire damage roll. These additional rolls are not considered to have been caused by the attack. You're going to resolve the damage simultaneously. It is a model for me that I have a hard time with because it is a cavalry model, but it has no attack. It's got spells, and it's got this ability where you walk up, and when you make advance into base-to-base contact with an enemy model during its activation, the enemy model is going to suffer a continuous fire effect. It's an awkward little beast, and I would love to see how this is being played. Because I'd love to have it unlocked. But for me, it just hasn't been good. Now, Zacchaeus is super interesting. He is a really interesting bit of tech that I can appreciate the inclusion of. He has a couple of different things he can do, and he's going to do one of them basically every turn with his magic ability. He's got Winter Storm, which is really the value for taking him, which is enemy models that begin their activation with the intent of this model are going to lose Eyeless Sight, Flight, and Pathfinder that activation, and Winter Storm is going to last for 1 round. Additionally, he's got Breathtaker, which is for 1 round. Living models suffer -2 defense and -2 to their melee attacks within 5 of this model. He's got a speed of 9, so he effectively runs 14, so you can get him into a lot of different places. Just with that speed, again, you're going to go 9 and cast a spell. He's got 2 attacks, each with critical freeze. He's got Repo 3, so again, speed 9, cast spell, Repo 3, effect 12 plus 5, so 17 for Breathtaker and 22 for Winter Storm. So there's some potential value there. He is 6 points, so you're getting into the expensive range of solos, but he's very, very interesting at those point costs. At that point cost and what he does, but particularly Winter Storm. Winter Storm in an environment with pigs, I think, has an ability to catch some people out potentially if they haven't seen it before. Because again, this list relies very heavily on a stealth skew. And where I really see the value is less so in Big Pig and more so in Big Pig is the primary target. There's some cute things that can happen in some of the other factions along with reducing Kruger. Kruger is also a pretty big target for Zacchaeus. Gives you the ability to kind of counter his nonsense against the stalkers, so that you're not losing those units. Again, you're so heavily invested in stalkers in this list that removing the eyeless sight from 91 models in the tournament is probably a pretty good bargain before we even factor in the pig. So it's an interesting bit of tech and kit that I don't think a lot of Shadowflame Shard folks have really dug into. So I'm happy to see the inclusion here. It is just interesting to see these two tech pieces within the match. Speaking of tech pieces, we've got the Shadowmancers providing a lot of help to the lists, particularly dealing with the amount of whites that are going to be on the table over time, with the ability to hand out guidance, allow you to run a little hotter than not. Although with 3 beasts, you're not going to run that hot too often, but if you do, you've got some insurance there. I like this build quite a bit. You're banking very heavily on the stalkers to do a lot of lifting. You've got the double wyverns to do a lot of things. Shyrus is always playing full bore into the opponent. You always have outs with her, and it's really riding a tightrope. And I just love Shyrus a lot. Then you've got Rask. On the Rask list, we've got Scalia. We've got a Vipex with an asp head, a Hunter's Mark, and Cleavers. We've got two Vipexes with Viper heads, Bladed Gales, and Impalers, also known as the full assassination style Vipexes. No Wyvern in this list. No Wyvern. We have Belagul, we have Riven, we've got double spinners, we have single Wraithwing Paragon for the Shield Guard. We have 2 units of Incarnate Knight Cavalry and a single unit of Windspire Shadowmancers. We have defenses of Barrier, Spike Trap, Blessing of the Gods, defenses Hit and Run, Power Swell, and Put the Fires Out. Let us talk about this list because I like it. It is thinking differently in Shadowflame Shard, and I am a fan of thinking differently. So a lot of what this list is going to do is to be very aggressive in its run up. You are going to use the knights to block line of sight to the Vipexes or Scalia that you are running up behind because it is touching you to give you the additional armor from battle formation and the no knockdown, again, which the knights already have. The spinners are there to go ahead and make sure the knights replace themselves as they continue up the field. Again, you're probably going to be running a lot of Dragon's Blood in this list, I would imagine. You may be doing some cheeky things with again with said Dragon's Blood. You've got Raven in this list for Mortal Fear. You've got Belagul again to dish out. I love the Wraithwing Paragon in inclusions in the list. I have been playing a Wraithwing Paragon recently, and I am coming around to the acceptance that it is overcosted. It is overcosted 100%. But we live in the world in which we live, not the world in which we want to live. And it gives you very mobile solo that also is giving you a shield guard. And oftentimes, you really just have to stop the one hypercritical shot. And being able to do that and then hopefully survive and then hyper aggressive forward with your flight, your 7 inches if you choose to, or if it's a good situation to, can be really damaging to the opponent. Again, I like the concept here. I think this is something that is going to have some legs, and you're pulling into you're working out the difficulties that the Wyvern has, which is it can be knocked down, it can be seen, it can pretty much always be seen. And in a world with mastodons, having this style list where I can box out with the knights, who are not easy to remove, who I'm giving battle lust to, or I'm sorry, not battle lust, who I'm getting battle driven to, by you damaging them, they then become harder to kill. And I'm spearheading the army up with that, and then the whole army is getting more and more armor because of battle formation. I'm limiting my line of sight in that fashion. It is a very interesting prospect as to how and if this works. Again, Scylla is an interesting tech piece. Again, You're going to use her to try and get those knights back to full strength as often as possible, keep them up, and then really finish things off with the Vipexes as you get in there. This is a cool list. I like this Rask list a lot. I want to try it out. Again, anytime you've got something this counter meta, in terms of the consensus is wyverns are the way to go. And then here we've got a list that goes there's no wyverns. I like this conceptually quite a bit. The double spinners, very, very cheeky. Um, but all these pieces kind of fit in a really interesting way. And hats off to Kevin Knox. I think this is a very cool list. And again, very precise list. You're going to be playing some pretty specific rack builds into some pretty specific matchups. But because most of the time you're going to drop Shirus. But people that are not prepared for this style of Rask list are going to get caught out pretty hard. This is an interesting list, and my hat's off to Kevin and Eichhorn for this. All right, jumping over to Eichhorn's Brine Blood player, we've got Captain Shadowtongue, my absolute favorite caster in Brine Bloods, and we've got Dragon Ragemonger. So on the Shadowtongue side, we have Deepborn Dire Troll with Cantankerous Head, Minnow Fin, Hammerhead, and Shark Skull Gauntlet. We've got Deepborn Dire Troll with Deepwalker Head, Minnow, Hammerhead, and Shark Skull Gauntlet. We have a Reef Troll with Matey Head, Altinkered, Ship's Gun, and Boarding Axe, and another Reef Troll, Matey with Altinkered, Ship's Gun, and Boarding Axe. We've got a Vrogger. We've got 2 booty bosses. We've got Madame Moriarty. We have a Battle Brig, 2 Pig Cannon crew. We've got 2 Pig Dirges, 2 units of Marauder crew, each with tappers, and a Pig Galley crew. Blessing of the Gods, Breakthrough, Power Swell, Put the Fires Out, and Sentry Duty. Very interesting Shadowtongue list here. I like the additional beef in this list. Very battle group heavy compared to some of the other builds that people were trying to work with Shadowtongue. I think these are a little more on the correct side. Generally, I really like the Battle Brig with him. I love the Pig Dirges with him. They set up potentials for assassination runs from odd angles. The double Marauder crew with the tappers are a good choice. You just got little 7-point units that can do some work when you need them to. But most of this is you bring in a brick with a lot of spells behind it, and I'm here for it. It feels very Sabrethy, which is exciting for me as a Sabreth player and a Sabreth evangelist. But here we're talking Shadowtongue. But again, just some crossover. And then we've got a Rangemonger list. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Cantankerous Head, Spearback, Hammerhead, Shark Skull Gauntlet, Deepborn Dire Troll, second Deepborn Dire Troll with Deep Dweller, Spearback, Hammerhead, and Shark Skull Gauntlet, a Vrogger, double Booty Boss, double Fire Guardian, First Mate, Stormjaw, Madame Moriarty, double Pig Dirge, 4 Quartermasters, or 4 units of Marauder crew, each with a Quartermaster, defenses of Barrier, Fire Pit, Blessing of the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, defenses, Power Swell, and Sentry Duty. Again, a little bit different a little bit different Dire Troll configuration, just slightly, but again, kind of the same rhyme and verse with Ragemonger. Again, the 4 Quartermaster Marauder crew trying to get as much work done as possible on the feet. You've got the Vrogger to assist with that. Be annoying, get into spots with Paralyzing Gaze. Again, you've got the Dirges to provide the spotting. Pretty stock standard Ragemonger stuff here. The Deep Dweller Head is kind of a neat inclusion. I like that. It's a neat bit of kit. And in both the list, having Sentry Duty, I think, is a good understanding of the fact that you're going to have to be playing into Shadowflame Shard and Crix as stealth skews at different points, and that is very astute. I like that inclusion quite a bit. And then rounding out Eichhorn, well, not quite rounding out Eichhorn, coming into the end of the station, we've got Dusk. Here we have our first departure from Seraphel and Moraine. We have Tyrus and Heleth. Tyrus is my absolute favorite dust caster outside of Hazaroth, because I will make Hazaroth work one day. But Tyrus, I think, is just an absolute beast. Having Stranglehold in this meta is just really strong, and he does so much for the list on his own. His feat is pure gold. And let's get to this list, because this list is spicy as hell. We've got Double Spectre. We've got Carver Ultimus with Warbore. We've got Dices Kruger, single Mage Hunter Commander, single Void Engine. We've got a single unit of Dreadguard Archers, single Dreadguard Cavalry, unit of Seeker Adepts, unit of Soulless Guardians, unit of Soulless Hunters with Seeker Spell Ward. We've got defenses, Double Barrier, Spike Trap, Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, defenses, Hit and Run, Old Faithful. Let's talk about it. This is spice on a stick. We've got Tyrus, who is a stranglehold machine, who is the best at providing buffs to the army in the form of deflection and IR. Because again, you've got three slots. So with the 3 slots, you can go a lot of different ways. You can really make the rack work to your efficiency. The Double Spectre is something I am exceedingly interested to see how it works out. Because again, this allows them to get to places that are just going to be awful for the opponent to have to deal with from a scenario perspective. It takes so much to take out a Spectre, and with Tyrus being able to give it some additional mobility with his feet, with being very comfortably able to take Ghost Walk from the rack, just gives you a ton of flexibility. Again, you've got Carver here with Shield Guards, which is terrifying. You've got a unit of Soulless Hunters. I am so happy to see Soulless Hunters in a list. They are some of the best combined arms infantry that is offered in the game currently. They just do a ton, and they can shoot, and they have a POW 10 attack in melee. Didn't know if you knew that. So they take buffs really well. They become ghosts just as easily with a Void Engine. They give you some spot removal. If you take barriers, they hold up real nice behind them. They complement archers pretty well. They are a cool little unit, particularly if you're going to be bringing the Void Engine. Argument could be made that could be a unit of Rangers, but I like them a little bit better in this configuration as Hunters, because again, you've got the Void Engine, so you're double dipping that value of the whites. So again, I really like this Tyrus list. I'm a big fan of this Tyrus list. List 2. We have Heleth. Heleth is an amazing caster, and that feat is just so good at turning on the world for yourself, and then having the best defensive feat in the faction. And again, you should have a defensive feat in your pairing generally. It's usually pretty good to do that. You've got Heleth, you've got Israfel, you've got Carver. So this is again a double Carver Ultimus list, or double Carver Ultimate list pairing. You've got Dices, you've got Kruger, you've got a Mage Hunter Commander, you've got 2 Mage Hunter Sniper teams, you've got Valus, Hand of the Morning, you've got single Void Engine, you've got 2 units of Dreadguard Archers, a unit of Soulless Guardians, unit of Soulless Hunters with Seeker Wardens, Arcane Forces, Blessing of the Gods, Hit and Run, Infiltration, Power Swell. Very cool Heleth list. Again, you're going very heavy on archers, which Heleth works very well with. You've got Carver in there. Heleth does a ton for Carver. You've got the Void Engine, and you have the little bit of tech that we just talked about with the Soulless Hunters and the Soulless Guardians. Just a lot of fun stuff here to really be cheeky and hard-nosed. So I like these dust lists quite a bit. Hats off to Nicholas. These are some fun dusk lists. That Iris list looks very spicy, and I'm very interested to get that on the table to test out. All right, and finally, winter core or Eichhorn. Winter core, we have the pairing of, again, Baranova and Savern. Do you think that these countrymen talk to each other? Because I think they may have talked to each other, at least from a pairing standpoint. Although list builds fairly different, which is very exciting. I love when we get countrymen doing different things. Tells me there is diversity within their metas and some different lines of thought, and that is always exciting. All right, so with Baranova, this time we have a Great Bear with a slammer head, a battle mace, and a heavy cannon shield. So the big burly Great Bear. We've got a Mastodon fire support head, the double shoulder mounted heavy cannons, the Great Axe, and the Dozer Fist. We have a Bison. We have Kruger Wrath of Everblight. We have we have Volkova. We have 2 units of two Winter Corps officers. We have a unit of Arcanist, 2 Shock Trooper Gunners, and 2 units of Winter Corps snipers, each with hunting dogs. Arcane Forces, Blessing the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Power Swell, and Sentry Duty. I like this Baranova list. I really like Baranova with a Mastodon. I like the inclusion of the Great Bear, the Slambo Bear. That is a fun bit of tech here. Again, big fan of the double Shock Trooper Gunners and the double Snipers. These tend to feel like just right at home with Baranova. They play into what she's trying to do pretty well. The double officers to help assist them. We've got the Bison. I like this quite a bit. And then we go over to Savern. This Savern, we are playing a Mastodon. We are playing the fire support head, double heavy cannon, great axe, and grinder fist. We've got Kruger Wrath of Blightergast. We've got Volkova. We have Sergeant Krull. We've got 2 Winter Corps officers, unit of Arcanist, 2 units of Winter Corps suppressors, a unit of Wrecking Crew, and double Winter Corps sniper with hunting dogs, with Arcane Forces, Blessing the Gods, hit and run, put the fires out, and Sentry Duty. The Mastodon with Savern is one of the wickedest pieces in the entire game. You have a 14-inch charge with that thing under Savern. It is ridiculous. He is out of control with Savern. The Mastodon was built for Savern, and Savern was built for the Mastodon. It is an utter match made in hell for the rest of the game. I love the inclusion of all of these Mana War with Savern. That is such a great bit of tech to present this horrific puzzle of the fastest moving Mastodon in the game, and all backed up by double suppressors and Wrecking Crew. Very, very solid pairing here for Winter Corps. Very scary having to deal with a Mastodon, whether you go left or right. I think that this pairing is very, very good. I think you're going to see it utilized quite a bit. I think you're going to see a fair amount of double Mastodon as we go forward through this. Hats off to Germany for getting the list out as quickly as they did. Hats off to everyone at the WTC. We have gone through Germany, and we will be back with another episode where we will go through some more countries as we try to get through every single one of these lists prior to the WTC. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. If you're on the YouTubes, please like and subscribe. Check us out. We do video battle reports and battle reports from our North American War Machine League that we do online with the help of the fine folks at wartable.com. Thank you so much, and good luck at the WTC, and enjoy it, Germany.